my name is Ellie Frymire. I studied data visualization at Parsons School of Design, and I want to talk to you today about my thesis, Me Too, which is an exploration of tweets using cluster analysis. So I'm going to start on this day, January 21st, 2017. I don't know how many Americans we have in the audience, but does anybody know what happened on this day? What happened? Women's March. I'm so glad you said that instead of Donald Trump's inauguration, because it was the same day. But what a welcome he got from us. So this was the Women's March. The official goal of this march was to advocate for women's rights, specifically women's reproductive rights. And from this image, we can tell that a lot of people were really angry. I was angry. I also marched on that day. And this march absolutely shattered records. People all over the United States marched, and a lot of signs. We knew that there was a lot of anger, but it's really hard to share your personal experiences in this type of format. Who are these people? What are their stories? Cut to October of the same year, and something really, really powerful began online. A famous actress by the name of Alyssa Milano tweeted this image of the Me Too idea, originated by a woman named Tarana Burke. She says, if all the women who have been sexually harassed or assaulted wrote Me Too as a status, we might give people a sense of the magnitude of the problem. And there's this idea of magnitude, of numbers again. And sure, thousands of people liked, replied, and responded to this original tweet, and millions more used the hashtag Me Too. But I wasn't focused on the magnitude of this problem. I already knew it was a big problem. I wanted to know who these people are. What are their stories? I wanted to know, what are people really saying when they use the hashtag #MeToo? And before I talk about how I answered this question, I think it's important that you understand why I'm so passionate about the Me Too movement. So these are my best friends. 3 out of 5 of these photos are professionally taken. We love each other that much that we paid someone to come take our photos. This looks like a movie poster for some fantastic feminist cartoon or something. Brooke here looks like she could either save your life or kill you, and she just hasn't decided yet. Adrian will probably just kill you there, but we love each other a lot. Best $100 I ever spent. And these girls have been with me through everything. And as 6 smart, talented, ambitious young women, we've had our fair share of experiences. One of us almost lost a job for speaking out against sexism in the workplace. More than one of us has been stalked. And more than one of us has been sexually assaulted. We are not the exception to the rule. And because I know each of our stories so intimately, I can understand the impact of these experiences. A tweet is not just a number. That is a real and lasting experience for that person. The hashtag #MeToo means so much more. So I actually went straight to the source. Using a Python library, I scraped nearly 1.4 million tweets from the advanced search page the 6-month period after Alyssa Milano's first tweet. That's a lot of tweets, 1.4 million tweets. What do I do with that? The first thing I did was just outline them on a timeline and see what I was working with. I noticed that there was a major spike the day after Alyssa Milano's first tweet. That makes sense. There was a lot more tweets again on December 5th, when Time magazine named the Silence Breakers their Person of the Year. Another major spike on January 7th at the Golden Globes, when the Time's Up movement was announced. And again on March 4th for Oprah's speech at the Oscars. I was really excited to see this, because this meant that my data tied nicely with the movement's ebbs and flows, following the timeline, and people were tweeting about what was happening. So then I said, I'm gonna dive right in. I'm gonna look at the words within each tweet. So how does one begin to analyze 1.4 million tweets? I used a process called unsupervised machine learning, specifically k-means clustering. Don't worry. I'm not going to talk about math, I promise. That's it. just k-means clustering. And you don't have to have a PhD in principal component analysis to understand. I mean, it would help, sure, but you don't have to. Essentially what happened here was that we were understanding a data set by finding groups within it, based on some characteristic that I chose. And I chose to look at the words within the tweets. So let's walk through an example for you visual learners out there. So let's say we have one tweet, and within that tweet, we use the words Donald Trump and Republican. Sorry, I'm going to have to talk about him. It's sexual harassment, I know. So say you use the words Donald Trump and Republican. Now, the algorithm would pair that with tweets that included words like Clinton and Democrat. And the important thing to note is that it didn't actually know these were political tweets. It just knew that they belonged together in one cluster. And after analyzing nearly 1.4 million tweets, 26 million unique words, the result was 425 clusters of tweets, 425 natural groupings within the data based on word patterns within. And the beauty of this was that it was an unbiased solution. After reading these clusters and seeing the top words in each cluster, I could understand that there were about 5 major themes in this collection. The first theme, political tweets. I told you I had to talk about Donald Trump just a little bit. Now, these tweets were from both sides of the aisle, supporters and critics. And although Me Too was born in the experiences of Hollywood, the effect reverberated. Top words in these clusters include Trump, vote, and president. The next theme was workplace clusters. And this was really exciting to me because a core tenet of this movement was really about the abuse of power. But these tweets were also about how policy is changing within the workplace. Top words in these clusters include workplace, changing, and power. I probably don't have to tell you that people are really mad online right now. It's crazy. Don't go. There was a whole collection of really angry clusters, and this included toxic language from supporters and critics. These tweets were filled with profanity. Top words were the F word, disgusting, and behavior. Another theme, conversation-based clusters, and this was really what inspired me to do this project. These were tweets that were encouraging change, inspiring stories, and driving conversation. Top words here include discuss, story, and change. And lastly, the uplifting clusters. This really beautiful side effect from this movement was this online community of support for everybody who had been through something difficult. These tweets were commending the brave men and women for coming forward and sharing their stories. Top words here include strong, courage, and love. So maybe you already kind of knew this was going to be the result, or maybe you're surprised by all these effects. You know, maybe you've had political conversations as a result of the Me Too movement, or maybe you've experienced changing workplace policy. Maybe you've been upset about some of the stories you've heard, or had a conversation with a loved one for the first time. Maybe you've just been uplifted by all of these effects. But the really important thing to note here is that we don't just know the magnitude of the problem. We can know so much more. One of the most popular tweets in the uplifting cluster was this one from Alyssa Milano, where she says, "One tweet has brought together 1.7 million voices from 85 countries. Standing side by side together, our movement will only grow." She tweeted this just a mere week after her initial tweet. And she's not wrong. But I want to make sure those voices aren't just counted. I want to make sure those voices are heard, because I am one of those voices. My friends, we are 6 of those voices. You might be one of those voices. To culminate these findings, I created an interactive data visualization using a lot of the same imagery and themes I've discussed with you here today. And although I have my own interpretation of what these results mean, I think it's important for each of us to find power and growth in this movement. An important component of this visualization is the ability to read the tweets themselves so those original stories are not lost. To me, this work is not done and never will be. Not only is Me Too growing and changing with new allegations and experiences, but the data is expanding. There are more ways to understand digitally native social movements than ever before. I will continue to not only try to understand the pulse of our changing world, but communicate it beautifully. Thank you.